Hi, my name is Ian McClarty. I'm president of phoenixNAP, and I have with me Rick Vanover, Senior Director of Product Strategy for Veeam.
Hey, good morning, Ian.
Good morning. And we'll give a couple more minutes for some attendees to join. How's your day going, Rick?
Oh, it's been really good. The topic of the day is VeeamON recap, and I'm still recapping, right? It's been 2.5 weeks or so, but I'm still just now getting some air after the event. But happy to definitely talk about it with you and phoenixNAP customers, because I've been pretty actively involved on the event. So I've got a seat on the core team for it. So I've got an interesting perspective for it that I'll share here with you guys. But no, happy to be here.
That's great. That's great. And my intent is really to do it more around both an attendee and also as a sponsor, right? Some general feedback to others looking at sponsoring or attending the show. We've been part of the show for many years now, and we've seen the evolution of the show. And just every year, Veeam seems to just raise the bar for VeeamON. So
Yeah, we try. It is very difficult to make everybody happy, attendees, partners, and then even within our partners, we have different types of partners, right? So service providers, obviously for phoenixNAP makes one kind of perspective. So it's really difficult to manage that, and there's not a lot of real estate in terms of the day. But I think we found the recipe this year. I've had very good overall feedback on survey data. That in particular, that's really what's helped me drive the overall consensus. But yeah, it's been a lot of work to evolve it, and we are going to continue to evolve it. But I think we've got a good direction right now.
yeah, no, I very much enjoyed on a personal note the cube presenters, right? Really polished, really good questions that they were asking. It wasn't just about Veeam, which is nice. It was more general market trends, what's going on. But yet, yeah, I mean, obviously backup and recovery is the core of the conversation, right? But I'd really like the different directions they could take with the conversation. That was really cool.
The cube is a great extra edge or extra element to any event. In fact, it's kind of funny because I was first on the cube before I joined Veeam in 2010. Earlier in 2010, I joined Veeam in 2010. And then I hadn't been on the cube for years until last year. I was at an event and I got to get on, and the joke was, well, you got to make it more than every 8 years, Rick. But we
Awesome.
do. It's kind of funny because I'm actually the second most tenured Veeam spokesperson, other than our co-founder Ratmir.
Yeah, Ramir's great.
But the thought is we want to make the cube accessible to our top level sponsors and partners, and
Yeah,
occasionally some customer guests and that type of thing. So I always miss the boat, but I'm pretty sure I'll get back on the cube at some point.
that's great. Yeah, great, very cool, very cool. It seems like we have a couple more people joining here, so we'll give maybe another minute, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, it's great. I know everyone, when they join these webinars, one of the important things is just getting a sense of the presenters and where we come from. Ian, president at phoenixNAP, myself, I'm on the product team at Veeam, and I have a role on the core team of VeeamON. I'm in charge of the breakouts, which I think I take very personal, because when you think about an event, and Ian, you go to a lot of events, one of the big takeaways, there's two things. One is the general session, and the other
Mhm.
one are the breakouts. Those are
Yep.
really, in my opinion, going to define the attendee experience. And I put a lot of work on the breakouts. I was a participant in the general session. We had the very interesting destroyed system demo, and I managed all 63 of the breakouts in terms of presentations, speakers, etc. So it's great to see an event happen, and hopefully for the attendees of the call here today, they'll get a little bit extra perspective that you wouldn't get.
Yeah. Well, with that said, I think it's a good time to start. And again, Ian McClarty, president of phoenixNAP, and Rick Vanover, senior director of product strategy for Veeam. I'm trying not to make this a product pitch, but just very high level who we are, right? So we've been involved in the Veeam community now for many years. We're about a 10-year-old company now. We've been in operation since 2010, even though it was founded in 2009. We have about 500 employees, and that's globally. So we are in multiple regions. We also have 10 plus data center locations and growing. This year, we're going to be launching points of presence inside Sao Paulo, We're going to grow that into a new infrastructure node for us, and obviously tap into backup and recovery services that are more geared towards in country. So that seems to be a lot of the requests that we're getting right now from a growth perspective. Is I love what you guys are doing. I like your infrastructure services, but I really need to be in country because new laws are being passed, and that's just how the evolution will continue to grow. I don't see that stopping. So that's been driving a lot of demand for us to expand and grow internationally. We've been a partner since 2012 with Veeam. I've been very happy with the relationship. Our personnel is highly trained on Veeam environments. Sorry about that. It looks like the slideshow went ahead a little bit. So just I was kind of talking a little bit about our footprint. On the phoenixNAP side, we have, as you can see, that's about 15 locations right there showing, and more coming. We have also demand for Japan coming up quite a bit. We're trying to round out our network. What we offer is really an interconnected system. So if you're in Phoenix, Arizona, you can have access to resources and tools in Amsterdam and Belgrade and Sao Paulo. Yes, when it comes online, Singapore and Sydney. We really go after a global reach. We also do DDoS mitigation at the edge. So we do have a very strong security stance as a company. And our ecosystem is a little different. Most traditional Veeam partners are really hyper-focused on just backup and recovery services and maybe a couple other layers of cloud and security services. Our spectrum is a little bit wider. We focus more on these. We start with a space and power conversation a lot of times. We find that customers that are onboarding to cloud really need a stepping stone, and we're a really good stepping stone to get them to more cloud services. Whether that be with us or that with AWS or Azure or many of the other providers that are going to come and go, we believe that it's really a truly hybrid approach right now to solving problems, and so we embrace that as a company. And we started out with space and power. That's an easy go-to. As a matter of fact, inside the Arizona metro, we actually have the AWS Direct Connect POP in our facility that we're housing and servicing. And that services the entire metro region for Phoenix, Arizona. We're very proud of that. We were selected by AWS for a reason. They saw the potential in collaboration with us, and also the potential in demand and customers that we have access to. So that was a very good litmus test for us. We also differentiated that we do a lot of bare metal. So kind of like the opposite of cloud. We have very large bare metal deployments, and we are actually very excited about Veeam upcoming services around how to better address bare metal services. We have a large footprint of dedicated servers globally deployed. We're becoming we're really well positioned to become market leader in that space at this point. We're a good challenger right now. We want to be obviously in the top spot, and that's one of our goals as an organization, is to be in the dedicated bare metal server space. It's great for workloads that have nothing to do with burstable resources. There's a lot of workloads that are consistent and also grow, and bare metal is a really good solution for that. And our goal is to make it more cloudy. And then every single cloud service, this is more of the traditional Veeam related product lines. Cloud services is really based on Veeam and VMware technologies, and we really embrace that piece of it. Backup and disaster recovery, along with security services, really kind of create an ecosystem for us, as a whole. It's kind of a trifecta for us. We really embrace a security stance with cloud services, and then backup and disaster recovery is really the lifeline that we look for a breach, right, that may occur. So things that are out of everybody's control. It's also better business practice, and that's really one of our core pillars as an organization. So a little bit of a recap on Veeam 2019. And again, I'm doing it from both an attendee and a sponsor perspective, right? So the venue, great focus, great venue. Probably this is easily the best venue that Veeam has done, hands down, in its history. It was in Miami, Florida. The weather was great, which is just another added bonus, right? But the actual location was big, but it wasn't so overburdening from a state perspective that you felt that you had to travel to a lot of different places to get to where you need to be. The hotel actually was sized to the point where the number of attendees were well served, and you can also interact, and there were enough activities going on nearby that you really were engaged in the event itself. For us on the expo floor itself as a sponsor, so anybody again thinking of sponsoring, we noticed there was less foot traffic, but not necessarily in a bad way. The foot traffic itself was not a lot of resellers or other competitors or other people going out there and trying to sell you on like type products, right? Which does happen in other trade shows, or there's a whole like other partner ecosystem that tags along to these events, and that is maybe not focused so much on backup and recovery. That also happens in other like events. We noticed that the actual conversations we were having with a lot of end users and partners that really wanted to have, we're trying to solve actual problems and find solutions that were really more cloudy to solve them. So for us, it was a much higher quality conversation that was happening, much more a direct opportunity, closer to deal closing conversations that were happening, and that was on a consistent basis. And we really appreciated that this year. It was definitely a different year for us from previous years where they've been good conversations but not great. So this year there was definitely a difference. There was also kind of like a fairness aspect. Even though we were a platinum sponsor for the event, I felt it was fair to give all the gold sponsors and the silver sponsors a similar footprint. I actually saw that as a positive. I feel that kind of evens the playing field a little bit, right? Because not every year everybody's going to be a platinum sponsor, not every year everybody's going to be a gold sponsor or silver. But I felt that there was enough distribution and branding for everybody, where it didn't feel that like anybody was getting more attention than anybody else. So there was a very fair aspect to the show, and we really appreciated that. Just a couple cons. So I do mention that people are not that engaged in activities, and let me add a caveat to that. It really is more around the last day. So the first couple days, I mean, it was high level engagement, activity flow and excitement. The event itself finished off in the last day finished in the middle with a keynote session, and it was very early in the morning. And then I think people were under the impression of, hey, I'm in Miami, I'm already in a hotel, why don't I go to the pool? And nothing wrong with that. But that was the expo floor and the trade show were just died down after that. So that was the only thing. But again, it also created a relaxed setting as well. So when you're hitting it hard for a couple of days, and then you have like one day of like just a little bit of relaxation, you can have different conversations there. So there's always opportunity. So it's just kind of adapting to that, just being aware of that. The breakout sessions, I think this year were some of the best. I really believe that this year the breakout sessions were top notch. I did a sampling of my architects that attended the show from a attendee perspective, and they were very happy that they can actually have more detailed conversations this go round on the breakouts versus other years where product has been brought up. It's been very general, very nebulous. One of the other pieces of feedback that was great was actually seeing Ratmir in the keynote at the opening session, and and making commitments to us as a community, saying, look, by the end of the year, we're going to have all these things completed. That's the first time that's really has happened as a company for Veeam. So I do believe, and I have seen enough, and we have had enough interaction that the products that are coming will be coming, right? Whereas previous years, it's been a little bit more hit or miss, right? They may show up here, they may show up there. Now we're getting some actual due dates, which is nice. So a little bit more on the high level, right? So a couple thousand attendees, 60 breakout sessions. Again, great on the breakout session numbers. The general sessions were excellent as well, very well attended. And then a lot of live demos to show product. So that was also great. So we're still hearing the same kind of messaging, right? And again, there's always a premise of hybrid availability, hybrid cloud, right? That's happening. And I think people are seeing the backup systems and the onboarding a little differently. There's two different things that are going on in the industry right now. One is people are trying to onboard to cloud, and they're trying to find ways to get their data into the cloud, right? And whether that be public cloud or that be other cloud providers. And so a lot of times backup and recovery services become that go-to place, to make that happen. So that's one thing. And so that's why we see more and more adoption. That's why we see more requests. That's why we're seeing things happening from that perspective, because people are seeing it as a way to get my data in, the first phase is just get your data onboarded. Next phase, okay, maybe I want to spend some resources, or I want to get some live production environments, but at least I have now options. And so people are seeing that as an easier way to get in and out of different ecosystems, and we like that. Another one obviously is security. So there's always a security issue, compliance issue that's going on, whether that be that companies are getting breached more and more, and backup is really the last lifeline that they have. I mean, it literally, we have seen that time and time again, unfortunately, where we're getting clients that are under heavy attack, and even things out of their control. You know, simple phishing attacks, simple, or even very complex compromises are happening. Zero-day exploits happen all the time, and we really do see the backup and recovery being that saving grace for them, and people are able to keep their jobs, or even, and to some extremes, keep the company back up and running. So we do see that as a still an evolving trend. And then you have the other piece that goes with that, which is compliance. So we also see the compliance ecosystem spreading out more and more every day, meaning it used to be that, like, if you're a hospital, you have to have a compliance posture and compliance focus. Nowadays, it's more that ecosystem within the hospital supporting companies. You know, hey, you have a company that basically services the clean room, the cleaning for the hospitals, right? You're doing a lot of janitorial services. Well, guess what? You have to be HIPAA compliant as well, and high trust, because you in a sense are close enough to the or have a potential to be close enough to client information, right, or hospital information, that you have to follow the same standards. So we see kind of like the spread of the logistical systems happening right now on the compliance side, and we see that as a continuing trend. So again, a lot more on why the importance of backup and recovery availability is really happening. So again, a couple more demographics here, right? On breakouts for hosted cloud services for breakout for 2019. Some good data there. There's a lot of third-party drivers here, that are really focusing, the growth of backup and recovery services, but it's pretty well spread out. I mean, it's a little bit of everything right now. So again, I'm not trying not to make it too much of a product pitch on our end, right? But we do have a disaster recovery system that is very much about getting your systems back up and running. We follow a different suit for that. So at its core, Veeam is the core technology that we use right now for getting data in, getting data ingested. But to be able to spin down resources, that's where we really shine, and also having procedures around that. So one thing that our organization does very well is scale out. We have clients, for example, that are saying, look, I really need a good, cost-effective way to have true disaster recovery. I don't need to have a backup system. I need to have true disaster recovery where the resources are available to me when I need them. And by the way, we need to also test those resources and make sure that they are there. So we do a couple different things. On the onboarding side, we create a run book, and the run book actually has a lot of procedures, a lot of policies, a lot of expectations on both sides on what can be done and will be done. And then we also sanitize it. So we also every couple of twice a year, we give the client the option to test it, dry run it with no cost to the client, because we want to make sure, number one, it's accurate, and number two, we want to make sure that any major changes and things that are going on, that we are also covering. So that gives us a couple touch points on purpose every year, and most clients take advantage of that, and we appreciate that as well as a service provider. The other thing too that we do is we do quite a bit of a QBR, right? So we said that this is something that we learned from Veeam over the years, was the importance of sitting down, doing quarterly business reviews, especially with clients that are very complex and need to have some focus. It sets up time aside so that we can actually sit down with them and say, look, what are the things that have changed in your environment that are massive? What are the things that now, from a business perspective, are really driving you and saying that your uptime and your mission criticality has increased? What are your goals as an organization from an IT perspective? And then what can we do better, right? So it really creates a much stronger conversation there. And so our DRaaS, I mean, there's a lot of DRaaS providers out there, but we really take it to heart as a core product and corporate business line. And we've been doing it for for so many years that it's really its own pillar. even though we kind of throw into the backup and restoration pillar, right? It really has become a strong pillar for us, and really has been a way for us to help clients, especially when it comes to natural disasters, really have a system that can be up and running and be realistic. So a couple different things that came up, right? I mean, I this sample set of, and again, this is focused on phoenixNAP now. I had to wear a lot of different hats here, unfortunately, but this hat is really on the architectural side, right? What are the things that were really important for us? And so, O365 is a growing product for us. We're expanding that out, and we're seeing the strength and the additional features that Veeam is adding in the availability console for O365. That's very important to us. The Veeam has always had a decent amount of orchestration and also single console type setup, easy to use. But the visibility is really increasing. Veeam is really stepping up and doing a much better job to actually show resources and show additional things that are more so on the service provider side focused, right? We talk about the Veeam Availability Orchestrator, and I'm going to let Ray go into more detail around some of these pieces. But this is really good for us from a DR perspective. We're looking forward to displacing and simplifying some of our vendor network and really focusing on Veeam as our go-to partner for anything disaster recovery, backup recovery related. And it's moving towards that right now. So we're looking forward to a lot of the features that are coming out in the near future for that are related to that. And again, O365, mentioned a couple different ways, but so we cover best business practices on one side, on the architectural side, but then on the technology side, there's additional adoption that's going to happen for O365, in version 3. And we're looking forward to all of these different changes that are going to enhance the product line, but also at the same time, the product lines are now mature enough to where we're all able to share information with each other on some of the things that have worked, and the feedback that Veeam has provided back to the service provider is very. I mean, it isn't. I can't put just a simple word on it. I mean, it helps to cut a lot of time and a lot of hard lessons learned by having just best business practices being outlined. Yeah, I thought there's a free downloadable thing that we have provided. It's phoenixNAP.com vendor checklist that really talks about disaster recovery. Again, this is pretty much as we've seen as a core pillar for us. We created a guide that can help pick a provider. This is not just a phoenixNAP centric thing. This is just setting going through a nice checklist that is logical and reasonable, and then also setting expectations on both ends, because that's very important. You're entrusting your DR. It's more than backup and recovery. I mean, your DR is really your that's your lifeline when you need to get up and running and you have mission critical apps. The amount of pressure on IT departments to perform during a DR event, I mean, that are catastrophic, is intense. I mean, it costs people's jobs. So, making the time investment right up front and picking a good vendor that understands that and is going to be there with you along the way. We tried to summarize that over our years of experience and put it into a simple guide that anybody can follow and use with any vendor. And again, this is something that we're giving away to the market, right? With all that, I'd like to turn it over to Rick.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ian. And when we look at VeeamON, and I think it's important to really dissect the business of Veeam. Veeam is laser focused on that backup and disaster recovery, providing that technology. But I think a lot of people don't understand. We don't message it this way, but Veeam, I think, has partnerships in our DNA, right? So what we've done with phoenixNAP and how we go with resellers and alliance partners, some of the brands of things that we use every day from VMware and Microsoft and the storage platforms, et cetera. We look at the data out in the world. And then when you think about the solutions that Ian spoke about, co-location, dedicated servers, cloud services, security services, backup and disaster recovery, with the changes that we have in the world today, with much more data, available in the cloud, mobile platforms, And don't laugh about AI, machine learning, edge, and IoT. They're coming. And chances are you have an opportunity to use some of those right now. But sometimes when you want to do some of those things that Ian was talking about, namely backup, disaster recovery, some cloud services or security services, even co-location, the only practical way to do that sometimes is with a service provider. I've always kind of looked at service provider technologies as being that resource to do something that organizations can't easily do on their own. And then on top of that, done a lot better. So when you think about the data in your cloud, which it would include your private cloud, right? This isn't entirely so future facing from the Veeam perspective. But when you think about your data in the cloud, you think about the data extended to mobile devices, and with 5G coming, that's even going to increase, as well as the other two trends in technology. There's this kind of inherent requirement that things need to be available. And as we go to the next slide, I want to really kind of resonate on one number. And this number is really the gap. So on this next slide here, we'll see this one number that is kind of Veeam's goal. And the number, if you don't mind, there it is, thank you. The number that I want everyone to kind of focus on is 73%. Now, there was a time I'd be pretty happy if I got a 73% on a test in school or something like that. But the reality is we've done a survey, and I should clarify, they weren't Veeam customers, okay? But we did a survey that said organizations out there today, 73% of them cannot meet the user demand for their applications and data. This is the gap. This is the number that at Veeam we're aggressively trying to solve. And what does this really mean? Well, this means that businesses expect a certain level of availability today, yet what they've implemented in backup and DR is only, let me flip this around, 27% of that meeting the expectations. So those 73%, the majority who are not getting the innovation they need, this is a very significant gap. And then probably the best way to explain why this number is important is to kind of think of the expectations of today. Very simply, we can deploy data center services like new virtual machines so easy. Why should it be so hard to get it back? Or let me put it a little bit more practical. Here in the US, one of the funny things that I like to watch is, well, it's not really funny because it's a stressful situation, but if an airline has a system outage, have you ever noticed what happens? People go to social media. It makes the news. And, it gets in the way, right? People can't make their personal trips. They can't make business matters. But why is that? Well, that's actually one of the purest examples of a digitally transformed business, because an airline cannot operate a flight without their requisite systems. And what I mean by that is they can't transfer data to security authorities with the passenger manifest. They can't pay their employees for working the flight. They can't track the luggage. And heaven forbid, you can't get your miles on your account, right? All of that stuff is data driven and digitally dependent. And if you take something like that, even more safety focused things like tracking maintenance logs of an aircraft, those are all dependent on the systems. And there really is no manual mode. So when I look at what Veeam is trying to do, and I couple these trends in the industry, and then if I think about how Veeam goes about the market being laser focused on backup DR through partners, then we can walk into some of the things that we're trying to achieve. And our goal at Veeam, as we go to the next slide here, is to really bring innovative products that help our customers and our partners solve that number. And when we look at VeeamON, it's kind of the flagship launch event. We set the tone for the year per se with it, and we're just starting a whole bunch of regional VeeamON forums and tours. So as Ian mentioned, there's a global presence for phoenixNAP, I myself am going to have a global presence for some of the VeeamON forums and tours. Just last week, I did one in Sweden. I have ones later in this year in Argentina, Brazil, China, and I feel like I'm forgetting one, but that's okay. And when we go to these events, we're really taking a combination of what we have coming and also reiterating what we've done over the years. And I want to just skim through this just to give you kind of a takeaway. Let's look at the 2017 releases. Every single one of these do a very important benefit of reducing the amount of effort to protect more data. Even the Cloud Connect Insider Protection, for example, that's a great out-of-band recovery technique where service providers can provide an outstanding additional value. Or, the two storage integrations, a better innovation, a better type of backup engine, etc. Even down at the bottom, we realized the benefit of the storage integrations, so we actually stopped doing it on our own. Those storage APIs have allowed us with Fujitsu and SolidFire, Pure, and Infinidat. They've allowed us, and there's also Huawei, that have allowed us to really shorten the time so that when we release something, if it was a Veeam release, there's a certain cadence that we can expect. But if we have the storage partners do the work, we can actually bring these solutions to market much quicker. And as we look last year and into this year, there's going to be a heck of a lot more. And some of my favorites through the list are definitely the secure restore, the Cloud Connect replication for vCloud Director was a big play for service providers. Some of the enterprise apps, Oracle, SAP, those are very important as well. And it's hard to pick a problem to fix, right? But my goal here is to demonstrate some innovation over the years. And when us as a Veeam product team go to market with what we're trying to accomplish, we always start with the question of what problem are we solving? How can we reduce that 73% in the market? And that 73%, again, those are not Veeam customers, but that's really the survey of the market. And our goal, coupled with the production technologies that are in place, if you think about what VMware brings to the market, what Microsoft brings to the market, what some of the top storage vendors and the top industry standard compute and networking providers bring to the market, you can really do anything. So why would we live in a world that we can't keep it as available as the platform dictates? And these are some of the ways that we're going to do this. And as we go to the next slide, what we've done at Veeam is kind of focus on our next big release, which is Veeam Availability Suite version 10. And this has been a long time coming, at least by this name, version 10. We've worked through a number of different things over the years, but we've had a couple of updates with our 9.5 series. In fact, if you were just to say 9.x, it's been a very long run with that. But I really don't think the name matters because we've worked in some new things that were not initially part of V10. Some things are at a readiness level that's taking them a bit longer. But then also, we're kind of also responding to market demands and market requests and such. And then when we look at what we did at VeeamON, which is, again, our kind of flagship event for the year, we had an opportunity to promote 4 upcoming new capabilities. So as we go to the next slide, I'll kind of summarize those 4 for you right now. So there's 4 capabilities, and the bad part is there's so much more. I just wasn't able yet to disclose those because the way we handle new capabilities is there's basically a readiness state. How ready is it and how committed is it to the next release? And these 4 are the first cut, but I think when I had my internal list, it was closer to 25 new things. But NAS backup is by far the biggest requested feature. I myself, this is my personal most requested feature that we don't have. And the way we've implemented this is really interesting. We did a demo on stage with it. And you can re-see the demo at VeeamON.com. But the main logic here is that we have a very advanced kind of mechanism to track changes of files, making that incremental backup very fast. It's really designed for millions and millions of files. Product management, I think, used the word billions, but I'm just going to say millions and millions of files. Then there's our cloud tier. And the cloud tier isn't exactly new, but it will be continually innovated. So this is one area that I really like, but we're going to have the ability to immediately offload data to S3 compatible storage, as well as other hyperscale public cloud storages, so that you have that immediate offsite copy. And then there are some two other capabilities that I think really drive some new options for organizations. The first is direct restore to VMware, and that is a instant recovery technique, which we've had for VMware and Hyper-V VMs for a while. But this is expanded a bit, where we can take any Veeam backup and restore it directly to a VMware target. And there's plenty of use cases for that, everything from retired PCs to physical server P2V, migrate something to a different VMware environment. Even IaaS should be supported as well, as long as we can do other recoveries there. There's a lot of ways that we could leverage this technology, and the best part is that it makes it completely transparent. Really, with everything Veeam does, we kind of focus on this absolute portability mantra. Now, that's my word. We don't put that in the messaging at any point. But the thought is, I really want to be able to take my data from here to anywhere. And this is just yet another capability that will help us do that. And the last one is, this one's really special to a couple of members on my team. It's called the Data Integrations API. And this is where I want to encourage organizations, and this is where you're going to walk into some value from service providers like phoenixNAP over time as well. But this is where organizations, I think, need to latch on to the art of the possible. Like, look at what you can do with this. And because it's an API-driven technology, there's so many ways we could do things or answer questions about the data that's contained in the backups. The example that Niels did on my team during VeeamON, which you can also see this at VeeamON.com, is he basically ran an API session that searched 10 different backups for American Express credit card numbers within the backup data. So that's like just to get your thoughts going about what are the things of the possible that you can do with the data you have. And then same thing for service providers. I'm convinced there's going to be innovative offerings that come from the set of APIs that'll be exposed here that will really help. Again, back to the why, that's 73%. How can we lower that number? So, Ian, that's a quick overview of VeeamON, a couple of current news topics of interest, and I tried to make sure that I highlighted how service providers are integral to our business and partners in general. And there's a lot of good things coming from Veeam, and hopefully, I know for sure phoenixNAP and Veeam will be there for the market to help lower that number.
Oh, thank you, Rick. No, that was really good recap of the technology side, and there was a lot of ground that was covered too at the show.
Yeah, there was. We covered a lot of different products. We had actually stuff across all of our products at the event, but it was just one of those things that, it's tough to get it all into 2 days, and it's even tougher to put it all in a 1-hour webinar.
Agree. I like to do a quick recap of just phoenixNAP-based services that are Veeam centric, right? So today we do a large amount of cloud backup backup and replication, which we're actually a launch partner with Veeam in the beginning on the cloud backup and replication side. If you go today, if you're a Veeam customer and you go into your Cloud Connect section, there's actually a drop down, and phoenixNAP is listed as one of the drop down partners. And all it takes is just some simple credentials, and you can set phoenixNAP as a recovery target, backup target. So really easy to implement. Relatively easy to get credentials from us too. I mean, we've automated a lot of that process over the years, and we'll continue to make investments there. We also have disaster recovery as a service. Again, very Veeam centric, Veeam focused. And we provide actual resources that are very like to what you have in production environments, and they're available. That's the other thing too. We guarantee the availability of those resources. We don't oversubscribe those resources. We make sure that they're available. And because of our bare metal business, we have we have a large volume of equipment that we service, and so scale out and being able to do things in scale is not an issue for us. I mean, our typical deployments are in the 100 server plus ranges, and there are multiple locations worldwide. So we tend to really embrace that model. Managed backup for Office 365, newer product for us, but again, based on demand, enterprise requests, we have a lot more SLED focus nowadays as an organization, and because of the SLED focus, it's been really driving a lot of the Office 365 adoption for us, and we'll continue to drive it. It's an easy go-to, very easy way to onboard clients in the SLED space for us. And Data Security Cloud. Data Security Cloud is a little differently. So Data Security Cloud is basically everything that we do from a virtualization perspective, with a heavy-duty compliance, third-party audited, architecture, and then we marry that with cloud, with Veeam Cloud Services, right? Making sure that we have backup and recovery as part of the core package, and make that in an affordable manner too. So a lot of compliance, a lot of security, a lot of third-party auditing, a lot of eyes on the actual environment itself, from a SOC perspective as well. So and that's an evolving product for us. We're offering, this is probably one of our fastest growing products that we have in our ecosystem right now, is Data Security Cloud. Very compliance centric right now. So PCI, HIPAA, and HITRUST are really the ones that that are at its core. But we are when we're going through the onboarding for other compliance methodologies as well, based on demand. And that's really a product for us that will continue to evolve. A couple different things I want to talk about, just easy. So we have free trials available for Veeam products. Again, kind of kick the tires, test it out. Quick setup time, and this is our standard SLA is 2 days. We try to get people obviously onboard a lot quicker than that. We are also have 24/7 support, 24/7 availability. Even our salespeople, are very heavily engaged. They're easy to get a hold of. We do pride ourselves in being rapid on quotes, being rapid on the speed of your business, and we have a very good reputation as far as doing that. And then we also have a PNCP automated management platform. So we actually do a lot of software development. I get really excited when I hear more API conversations coming from Veeam. That's really one of our core focus areas right now this year and next year, is to really step up our game when it comes to automation orchestration. We've been doing that for many years, but the exposure of our APIs are very important, and the integration to third-party APIs are very important. That's a big corporate drive for us right now. Our client portal, we have a couple different things that we have done with it. Number one, just overall resource management pool that you have. Again, more of an API drive this year or next year as we progress. Today, we have a very easy way to do sales enablement, meaning if you see something more custom that from a website perspective, from a marketing perspective, you're like, I like the services you guys offer, but I really need something more customized. Today, that's a sales engagement. We get a service order in place. We having a conversation. We customize based on your pricing and your needs, and then we basically put it in the system. And now, if you want to order more, no problem. We can, because it's customized. We can then do another sales engagement. What we're moving towards is we have negotiated pricing between different parties. And now you want to add more resources, you want to scale down resources. Now you can do it via API. So that's what we're moving towards, and that's very unique. We also embrace the reseller market quite a bit. So we actually have a lot of smaller MSPs or MSSPs even that are using our ecosystem of infrastructure, and we make it available to them to also skin to make it feel like it's their own system. It cuts a lot of the deployment times. We've automated a lot of it more and more, and we'll continue to do more automation orchestration. But we'll also have a reseller focus in mind, so that the people that are really putting their own managed services around our infrastructure can also take advantage of the orchestration and automation. Again, I kind of covered touch base on some of these things, right? It's not always a price conversation, but there's more to it. I mean, 24/7 support, being able to, but not just 24/7, but being able to be responsive around that. Meaning, it isn't just about opening up a ticket and having somebody take care of it. It's also about making sure that the ticket is seen to completion, that the issue is being solved, that when things are not being properly handled or escalated, appropriately and fast. And we really focus on that piece. We also focus on customization a lot. So customization is very important for us. We have very cookie cutter products in the sense, building blocks. We see more like Lego blocks, but we like to take those Lego blocks and then make images out of them, and have an image that really is more relevant to your business needs. Again, a couple of different just client issues. Oh, sorry, client kudos. I would like to leave this before the thank you. I'd like to leave this over for some Q&A. Rick, would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I don't know if we have any questions in the Q&A panel, but I will give you one frequent question I get, by the way. I guess maybe we can start with a frequently asked question. When's the next VeeamON, right? So we did also announce that the next VeeamON will be May 4th through 6th in Las Vegas. Happy to bring it back there. The ARIA. So we had a good one there in 2015. We're gonna again up the game a bit. So I know that was also a frequent question, and I'm also excited. We'll probably work in some data center tours for that one as well. That'll be nice because it depends on the venue. We couldn't do that in New Orleans, obviously, nor Miami, but we might be able to do that in Vegas.
Perfect. And if we have no questions from the audience, I would like to take the time to thank everybody. Both Rick and I, like to thank for the time that you spent with us, and have a great day.